This is a test of the wireless mic currently sitting at the table. This is only a test. Check 1, 2, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are you guys good? Do you need any more? Good? Okay.
Good afternoon. Hello. Good afternoon. If we could ask people to take their seats, we're going to get started in the interest of time. Thank you all for coming today and for your commitment today and every day to making this campus the place that it is. I want to recognize the CU Regents attending today and thank them for participating with us. We have Sue Sharkey, who's the chair of the Board of Regents and will be our facilitator today. We have Heidi Ganal, John Carson, Leslie Smith, and Jack Kroll. Please give them a round of applause. This is an important opportunity for our campus community to hear from Mark Kennedy, the finalist for the president of the University of Colorado, and to ask him questions. Mr. Kennedy, as I think most of you know, currently serves as the president of the University of North Dakota. His full resume is on the presidential search website at cu.edu. Mr. Kennedy will start by speaking for 5 to 7 minutes about himself and why he wants to be the next president of the University of Colorado. Then Chair Sharkey will begin by asking a few of the most pressing questions that have been submitted online from members of the university community. And finally, and I think most importantly, Mr. Kennedy will then take questions from the audience. There will be staff members with Mike in the audience, and they will meet you on the aisle. So if you have a question, our hope is that you will make your way to one of the aisles and you'll be met by a staff member with a mic. To maximize the number of questions Mr. Kennedy can answer, please keep your questions short and focused on the candidate. We value everyone's right to speak freely about their ideas and perspective. I ask that we conduct this forum in the spirit of respect and civility that defines us as a university community. If you don't get a chance to ask your question today or would like to provide additional feedback, I strongly encourage you to fill out the feedback form on the website at cu.edu. Your feedback will be provided directly to the Regents before it makes any final decision, and that will be made public. Now it's my pleasure to introduce the Chair of the Board of Regents, Sue Sharkey, who will moderate today's discussion. Sue.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Chancellor Elliman. And I want to thank all of you for being here today. And I want to thank Mark Kennedy as well for giving us the opportunity to ask him the questions that are of interest to you. I want to take a moment to let everyone know that earlier this week an email went out to the students, the faculty, and the staff describing in detail the presidential search, the process that I hope answers any questions about how we got here today. So if you do have questions, please take an opportunity to read that email. And with that today, our focus is on getting to know Mark and to ask and allow him to answer your questions. So Mark, if you would take a few minutes to talk to us about why you would like to be the University of Colorado president, and also just a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you, Chair Sharkey. Thanks, everybody, for being here and beginning this conversation that I hope will last a long time after the hopefully final decision to have me as your president, as to how together we can make an even greater University of Colorado. I'm here because this is one of the best universities on the planet, and I'm honored to be the Regents nominee for your president. I want to, before I go into your questions, tell a little bit about me, what got me here, what the values that drive me, as well as what you can expect from me. I began my life as one of 7 kids, and my mother was passionate about education. She reserved $500 a year for 4 years for each of her 7 kids, and I picked strawberries, washed dishes at a bakery, pumped gas at a bait shop to be the first boy in my family to go to college. And when I look at the opportunities that is unleashed for me, having been treasurer of Macy's, U.S. Congressman, presidential trade advisor under both Presidents Bush and Obama, leading a school at George Washington after teaching at Johns Hopkins, now president of the University of North Dakota, none of that would have ever happened had I not had that college degree. So the passion that drives me and Debbie, who is also a first-generation college grad, is how can we reach out and provide that benefit to more people that unlocks opportunity for them, their families, and their communities. I have found, leading in universities, that you need the three skills of running a business organization that, if you look at it, it's $4.5 billion operation. If we don't operate it efficiently, it's going to affect our teaching mission, our research mission, everything we're trying to do. You also need that political skills to engage in a public university, but importantly, you need to be deeply passionate and committed to the academic mission. I have all three of those. When I started out at Pillsbury, I helped them buy a company called Haagen-Dazs and spread that around the world. At Macy's, which is as large as any company in Colorado, I was part of the senior management team that eventually built it into the largest department store retailer. When I went to government, I went from managing budgets in the tens of billions to trillions. And I only got there by overcoming the 1 in 100 odds of defeating an incumbent by reaching out to a broad coalition that included not just people from my own party, but also the independents and the other party as well. In academia, I learned my way from the bottom up. Teaching at Johns Hopkins made me a better school leader at George Washington. Being a school leader at George Washington helped me be a better university president at North Dakota. And I believe being a university president is going to help me be a better system leader here in Colorado. At the University of North Dakota, I faced a 30% reduction in state funding and a 2-decade logo controversy, but still unified the community around a transformative strategic plan that resulted in a 10 percentage point improvement in 4-year graduation rate in 3 years, a jump in research, hundreds of millions of dollars of investment in campus, much of it privately funded, a record year of fundraising, new protections for sexual orientation, gender identity, and political belief, as well as us being named one of the 25 most innovative universities in the nation by U.S. News. So I have the experience of managing organizations in the tens of billions, of making those tough decisions, and of unifying a university community, research university community, towards transformative change. That's about me, what drives me. My central animating leadership principle is that life is a game of addition, not subtraction. That we're better off through collaboration, multiplying our efforts, rather than through division, diffusing those efforts. And if you look at my life, it's lived that out. Not only do I have a very strong bipartisan record in Congress, but in my 35 years in business and in academia, I've always checked my values at the door and made my values what's right for the university. I have also had a very collaborative effort as I've moved forward. You see that demonstrated in the way I've led in academia as a leader of all. When I left George Washington, and if I end up leaving UND, I will have left the leadership teams more diverse as it relates to gender. Or who they love or how they identify themselves. I will be a strong supporter of our DACA students, and not just that, making sure that we continue to be a mecca for the best talent from around the country. And we need to make sure, if I'm going to fulfill my mission to reach out to more and more people, those first generations, those are going to be increasingly diverse populations, diverse communities, that we need to extend the opportunity of education to them, whether it be our Hispanic population, Black, Asian, or American Indian. And to do that, we're going to need to not just use affirmative action, but affirmative outreach to make sure we bring the opportunity of education to them. What can you expect from me? The Regents recently agreed on 4 priorities. I'm going to be focused on those. The first of it is fiscal sustainability. Much of my time will be spent raising money, whether it be from the state, from the federal government, or from donors. Secondly, they said we want to make sure that CU education is affordable and accessible. So extending that education to more people, not just the traditional coming out of high school, but the single mom trying to better her career, or the 53-year-old worker that's laid off and trying to find a new path. Third is student success, working with all the chancellors to increase retention and graduation rate. And fourth, to extend the already strong research and economic impact that we have, particularly at this campus, to more and more of the state and elevate that. So I believe my role as the leader of the University of Colorado will be not just to unify this university, but also reach out to Colorado State and other universities, all the collaborative governance organizations, the governor, the legislators, the business community, to come up with a unified vision for why is higher education important to the future of Colorado. I'm also committed and believe deeply that we're not investing enough in research in this country, and that we as a nation need to come together, academia, government, and business, and redouble our efforts so that America maintains its innovative edge. You can imagine that one of my favorite leaders growing up was John F. Kennedy. He inspired his generation to put a man on the moon. If I'm lucky enough to be affirmed as the next president, I commit that I'm going to work in a collaborative manner to make sure that each and every student has that opportunity to have their personal moonshot, whatever their dream might be, and to make sure we're supporting our faculty so they can open up new frontiers, open up new opportunities for the state, as well as elevate CU's ranks amongst the world's greatest universities. Thanks for having me here today.
Mark, thank you. And Mark, I'm going to start with opening with 3 questions. And I'd like to assure the audience that these questions were submitted online, and Mark has not seen the questions, so he's not been prepared or rehearsed for the answers. And in fact, this will be the first time I've read the questions. So Mark, I'm going to start out with the first question. And number 1, you have said your thinking has evolved around the issues of gay marriage and equal rights. What specific evidence do you have of elevating and supporting the LGBTQ plus individuals and community?
Well, let me just first of all talk about my thinking evolving. Back when those votes were taken, I was shared in my political expressions with President Obama and President Clinton and others. How did I get to where I am today? It began by when I was a young kid, we lined up at the front door every first day of school with all the kids that were going to school, taking a first day of school photo. And my mother would give us all a piece of advice, and it was the same piece of advice every year. And that piece of advice was, look for the new kid, look for the person that's feeling left out, look for the person standing on the edge of the playground, and make them fit in. My mother didn't always feel fit into her schools when she was young. She wanted to make sure that we were reaching out. I realized that to fully fulfill her mission, I needed to change my thinking. That story is in the preface, first 2 paragraphs of my book, and animates my life. The second thing is, as I've been in academia, I've come to realize that to achieve that graduation rate requires not just them being able to afford it, not just them being able to handle the academic rigor, but them being able to fit in. It's an essential part of people getting through the college process. So as I've seen that, I have had a passion for making sure that everybody feels included on our campus, feels part of the community, and it's a key part of what we need to do in our academic mission. The third thing is, clearly I've made friends along the way that have shown to me that you can have a love between 2 people of the same sex, same gender, that is as strong and as binding as it is in traditional marriage. Roberto Izzarete and his husband Paul are amongst the couples that I've come to know. And fourth, I would say, we lived in D.C. before we came to North Dakota. Our daughter lived with us for a while, and as she went off to Michigan and entertained her friends at her house, half of her friends would be LGBTQ. So we have had multiple experiences that have shown me that I need to have a bigger, broader view of welcoming people, and I'm committed to it. How have I expressed that? If you look at the University of North Dakota, we have as strong or stronger of protections against harassment or other form of negative behavior towards our LGBT community and those of whatever gender identity. We also have expanded the staffing and the services that we provide for our LGBT community, and I could go into all the details in terms of the mentoring, in terms of ally networks, in terms of the welcoming at the beginning of the year that I attended to welcome our LGBTQ plus community to the University of North Dakota. And the lady who leads that effort for me says that we have made more progress under my 2 years of leadership since we identified in this our strategic plan than the university has done in the last decade. So I'm not neutral on this subject. I am an advocate for making sure that we're reaching out to all communities, making them feel welcome, and making sure that their college experience gets my full support and they have my full respect.
All right, thank you. So the second question that came is, do do you support stem cell research? And if so, why did you vote against it in the past? If yes, what has changed? If no, how do you reconcile leading CU and the scientific research happening on this campus?
My approach towards research and whatever my beliefs happen to be on those issues is I defer to the academic community. I've said I don't impose whatever my values are on the university. My values here as president of the University of Colorado will be what's in the interest of our faculty, staff, students, and for the state. So you have great academic communities that decide what type of research should go on or not. Academic freedom protects that. You not only have my word that I am not going to impose any values that I have in that process, but you have my 9-year track record in academia of never having done so. And you have the principles of shared governance and academic freedom that protect it. A 3-step approach to making sure that this is not a topic that anybody here on this campus or any other campus really needs to worry about.
Okay, so the third question is how will you prevent your personal beliefs from interfering in any way with the critical and life-saving research, training, and medical care provided here surrounding women's reproductive rights and abortion?
So first of all, as I've already said, it's going to be the faculty and the faculty alone that's going to decide what and how they research. I would also say that when you look at things like benefit plans, healthcare plans, or other benefit plans, the metric that I will apply is what do we need to attract the best talent to the University of Colorado? I will be not, whatever my values are not going to be the factors. It's how do we get the best medical professionals, the best professors, the best staff, the best students here at the University of Colorado, and that will be my sole metric. I want to also say that as it relates to reproduction rights or as it relates to LGBTQ, whatever the federal government does, and we all know the federal government may do some crazy things, we're not going backwards in terms of the protection we have here at the University of Colorado. We're only going to go forward in terms of the protections we provide, the benefits we provide. That is my commitment to the community.
Perfect. Okay, this is the last question that I'll be asking. Number 4. What is your stance on affirmative action, and can you give specific examples of your position?
I believe that to reach a diverse class, we need to have, in some programs, affirmative action. If they're highly selective, as our medical school is at both the University of North Dakota and here at the University of Colorado, you have to have it applied to the greatest extent possible, allowed by the Constitution as interpreted by the Supreme Court. We do have affirmative action in the way we recruited our medical school, but this is something from an affirmative action that comes from the program level up, not from the president of the system down. So if a program thinks that they need to do it, and I'm going to be pushing them, if anything, to make sure that they're doing it whenever they should be, to make sure you have a diverse class, I'm going to be supportive of that. But it has to go beyond affirmative action. Because even in your programs where you're not so selective that it becomes an issue, it's the outreach. You need to make sure that you have the financial aid to make sure that we can bring in those diverse communities into your class. And in a lot of cases, even beyond the financial aid, you need to be reaching out into those communities and making sure that they're thinking of this as a program of study for them, or University of Colorado as the college for them. So it's a combination of affirmative action applied whenever it makes sense to achieve the diversity that you need in a university environment to truly understand the power of diversity and learn from each other, as well as that financing to make sure that we have the scholarships and the outreach, which is a recruiting function.
All right. So now I want to open up the questions to the audience. And there are staff members in the aisles with microphones, and they're going to come to you. If you raise your hand, they'll come to you. And if possible, if you could step out into the aisle when they select you, and they'll assist you. So I'm going to start right over here.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jacob McWilliams, and I'm an employee on the CU Anschutz campus and the CU Denver campus. And my question is, what is what's your position on members of our community including pronouns in their email signatures?
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing it. Can we maybe try that one more time again, or?
That,
We're having sound issues, sorry.
Yeah.
can you hear me now?
Give it a try.
I'm curious about your position on staff and faculty and students including pronouns in their email signatures and in other official correspondences.
I fully support respecting the appropriate pronoun, whatever pronoun they want to choose. If you look at the woman that leads our diversity efforts, she lists at the bottom of her email signature what her preferred pronouns she prefers applied to her. So I'm fully respectful and will do my best to be honoring whatever pronouns people feel they would best be referred to as.
Thank you for coming. My question relates to gun violence and guns. This state, this city, has been severely traumatized both by Columbine as well as by the Aurora Theater shooting. And I'd like to know your opinion about studies and scientific research related to gun violence. That's a growing area here, and we're very grateful to those who give us money. As you know, it's precluded through the federal research programs. So could you give us an impression on that?
So first of all, as it relates to gun violence, I have reviewed your policies as it relates to guns on campus, and I'm fully supportive of the policies that CU has. Second of all, as it relates to research to address issues related to gun violence, I would strongly support all forms of research, including that. And to the extent that I can be helpful in sourcing research, I'm always happy to be that for any campus. And I do believe that at the macro level, working with the funding agencies, whether it be NIH, we doubled NIH funding during my time in Congress, during my time at the University of North Dakota, in great part because I helped affirm to the medical school that we would find the university match. We got the largest NIH grant ever in Dakota's history. And so spending time with the NIH, National Science Foundation, and other funding organizations, I do view as part of my role as president.
Is that working? There we go. So you've said you're committed to increasing the graduation rate. And so I'm an OBGYN faculty, and so I'm wondering, will you be an advocate to make sure that all CU health insurance plans cover abortion in the case of unintended pregnancies so that we can focus on allowing all students to have the best potential to graduate?
I'm intent on us not going backwards at all in where we are in our health plans. So whatever it covers now, I'm going to be supportive of. If they try to retreat that, I will be pushing against retreating. And I would also say that if there's further advances, that's going to be recommendations coming to me from the good people that are setting the health care plans. That's not something that you're going to be having me be an impediment in any way, shape, or form.
Oh,
Thank you for coming, Mr. Kennedy. So one of the criticisms about your responses has been the ability to kind of skirt over issues, and I do realize this is a small forum. So I'm going to ask you to give a little bit more detail. That's one of the qualities we'd expect in a president. You talk a lot about outreach and increasing the ability of students to go to college. College expenses are skyrocketing. We have innovative programs. NYU is allowing students to go tuition-free to med school. What would you do to make college tuition rates accessible or affordable to the citizens or the residents of the state of Colorado? And I say this as someone that might have a collegiate in the next few years. So it's a personal question. Yes, a little
So-
detail. Thank you, sir.
I think I got the question. Is what am I going to do to make college more affordable and accessible at the University of Colorado? Well, there's a variety of ways, but let me just first say my attitudes on cost of education. That if you get a college degree from the University of Colorado, on average, those that have debt would have $25,000 or less in debt. And on average, they would have $1 million bump in their income over their lifetime. It's about a 40-to-1 payback. The real challenge with cost of education, the most important challenge, is when they only get halfway through, and they maybe have that amount of debt or a significant amount, but they have no degree in order to get that return from. So as we're looking at keeping the cost of education down, we need to realize that the best way to make sure that they're getting a value for their education is to get them to a degree and not cut back on the student support services that they need to get there. We need to, of course, make sure that there is efficiencies within the university that are done to the greatest extent we can. And those can be done in any number of ways. President Benson has had an ongoing program of finding cost savings. I do believe that cost savings come best from the bottom up. University of Denver already has an incentive. University of Colorado at Denver already has an incentive-based budget program, which is something that Colorado Springs is considering implementing and talking to VenCat. Those help make sure that there's an understanding of the benefits, because if each unit gets their revenue and gets their applied cost and some of the things that were costed, like classrooms, you'll find that they become much more innovative in terms of reaching out for new revenue and much more efficient in using classroom space. For example, in that model, we found that if I charge you, if you want this college classroom just for your department, we're charging you the whole time for that. If you're going to put it into the central pool, you will find that we're only going to charge it when you use it. What happens because of that is you'll find people use classrooms more efficiently. Instead of just 10 to 2, they might do 9 to 2 or 9 to 3, and that has resulted in less need for classroom, which is lowering the cost of education. We've also done open enrollment, electronic textbooks, which has saved about $6-7 million so far. So there's multiple ways you could do it. The third thing you need to do is look for alternative revenue sources. Online done right can help to plow more resources back into the university. We need to consider whether we can even do it at a greater scale. Using public-private partnerships, we did a $93 million new steam plant, highly efficient, great for the environment, but that's $93 million that neither the state nor the university had to spend. There's multiple other ways I could talk about how we diversify our income sources, how we become more efficient in how we do things, including tech enablement that'll make more efficiencies for the staff and faculty, as well as a better experience for students. But it will be a key part of my task, one of the 4 things that I'm focused on.
Hi, I'm a master's student here at the Colorado School of Public Health. I don't know if you know this, but we're one of the top 25 public health schools in the country. So needless to say, I'm a little bit concerned about your congressional voting record. I know that the American Public Health Association gave your congressional voting record a 0% rating. So given that track record, I'm curious as to what public health means to you and how you're going to support the School of Public Health so we continue to grow our reputation as a leader in the field.
Again, as a congressman, you get ranked by 1,000 different rankings. I have no idea what goes into those. If you look at it, I voted for a doubling of NIH funding. Every time they had an education funding bill on the floor of the House, I voted for education funding. So I have always been pro-healthcare, pro-education. I also voted for the prescription drug coverage added to Medicare. When you look at public health, it's going to become increasingly important and something that we're emphasizing and making sure that in the broad way that we as service organizations, government, academia, otherwise, are reaching out to the public, that we're responsive to the public needs, that we're educating, that we're providing the support services if something erupts. We at the university have focused the university resources on about 5 undergraduate programs, 5 grad programs online to try to expand those. amongst both the undergrads and grad program is our public health program. Not yet top 25, but public health has been one of the areas that I have put university resources behind at the University of North Dakota, and we'd be happy to work on expanding it here at the University of Colorado.
Hi, my question is representing the College of Nursing here on the Anschutz campus. Currently, the College of Nursing represents 24 to 25% of the entire student body of this campus. However, we have a unique need when you talk about student services. We have the only undergraduate program here at the college, and so I wondered what kinds of things you might put into place or reinforce to support our students, particularly our undergraduate students here at the college.
Let me just say one thing I failed to mention in the opening statements was that I'm not going to micromanage any campuses. You got a great chancellor here. You've got some great deans. We're going to leave it to them to do the managing. I'm going to be fully supportive of that shared governance, academic freedom, and academic and freedom of expression. So first of all, I'm not going to do anything specifically for nursing, but to the extent that the chancellor needs support from me to advance that, I'm fully supportive. One of the things we talked about, for example, with the chancellor and the team is we have a relatively small population of undergraduate students here. Do we have the support services here? Do we need to collaborate more completely with Denver or other campuses in order to achieve that? Part of the role that the president can play is look and see if there's collaborative opportunities across campuses that can solve needs like that. So I would be happy to take that need back to the chancellors to say, is there a better way we can serve our nursing students? I realize how important they are to the healthcare system and would be happy to be supportive in any way I can.
In terms of your goals for recruiting the best individuals in terms of faculty and students, how would you address someone choosing to not be a part of this campus for whatever reason, for say based upon your previous voting record and them now feeling like someone on the outside of the playground?
I want to make sure I got the question right. How does my voting record not be a stumbling block as it relates to that? Is that what the question was, or what?
Or let's say you want to recruit the best people you can to this campus as faculty and students, but someone choosing to not attend this university because of your previous voting record for, say, example, same-sex marriage, and feeling like they do not want to be a part of that, like how would you address that with that individual?
I would just address that with the individual of a 9-year track record of making sure that we're inclusive. I want this campus to be viewed as amongst these campuses as viewed as inclusiveness as a competitive advantage for attracting students to our campus, and that is my goal, and that's what I will work with the chancellors and the team to achieve.
Hi, my name is Danielle Loeb. I'm on faculty in general internal medicine here on campus, and I actually have a question that relates to the one above, and I want to start with telling two very short stories about learners. One is that I sent an email out about my concerns about you, and I received an email back from a Indian American resident, and her response was, I have been deeply concerned about his track record, not on actually diversity issues not related to LGTB. I didn't think anyone else would care. Thank you so much for even showing me that you care. Number two, last night I was in resident clinic with a lesbian resident, and I'm also queer myself, so she felt comfortable talking to me. And we were talking about that the Supreme Court might vote that it's legal to fire people for sexual orientation. And she said, maybe I could get fired. And I'm like, well, you're protected here. This is a safe environment. And she said, not if that guy's our president. That was her response. And it may be that you have made this radical transformation. Possibly that is true. I'll give you that. People make big transformations. I haven't actually, I heard your interview on Colorado Public Radio, and it, just to be honest, it didn't sound that convincing that there was this big transformation, but maybe that has occurred. Whether or not it has occurred, you put these things on paper. You voted, you put your name next to them, and you're not going to have one-on-one conversations with the person who's African American, Indian American, genderqueer. They're just going to see this in the press, it's all over the press, and say, I'm not going there, I'm not welcome. How do you fight that?
I would say, first of all, in terms of how do I address the media, last time I checked, I don't control the media, and the media does what the media wants to do. Second of all, as it relates to how do you control that, President Obama had things on statements at the same time that I did. President Clinton was the one who approved the bill that ultimately was overturned. Would the same views be applied to President Obama or President Clinton if he was here being recruited for the president of the University of Colorado? So I have a 9-year track record. Actually, neither of them have 9 years of running a university and never having this become an issue. Neither of them have a track record of advancing the protections and the support services for LGBTQ plus community more in the last 2 years than they did in the decade. I've passed a policy as strong in North Dakota as you have here in Colorado. So I would just say that I understand the concerns, I empathize with the concerns. I have a commitment, I have a track record, and I would ask to be judged on my track record and not to be judged any different than anybody else from 2006, 2004.
Hey, I'd like to change the subject back to academic freedom and shared governance a little bit by offering a scenario that has actually occurred during my tenure on the University of Colorado faculty. And that is, a number of years ago, the governor of our state and the chair of the Senate decided that the university had too many liberals on its faculty. As a president of this university, you actually see every tenure decision that goes up through all 4 campuses and have the ultimate say on whether or not those tenures should be approved. What would you do if either the politicians of our state or heavy-hitting donors came to you and said, the balance of your university is politically swayed, it's too whatever, maybe it's too liberal, maybe it will become too conservative, who knows? What would you do to safeguard academic freedom?
Well, let me just first of all say, could this line come closer so I'm better likely to hear you? So you're asking me how would I safeguard it from those that are trying to portray the university as liberal or others? Is that what your question is?
Some preconceived notion of what the political environment should be. It's the difference between maybe instilling, it's academic freedom. What would you do if a legislator or the governor, not our governor now, I don't think, but came to you and said, your faculty has too many registered Republicans.
Let me just say that
too many Democrats. You have to do something about it.
I'm the president of the university. I'm committed to protecting academic freedom. If any political body above us tries to infringe on that faculty freedom, whatever party they might be, whatever organization they might be, I'm going to stand for academic freedom and make sure it's not infringed upon.
For deciding which faculty stay and which faculty go.
Which faculty I don't decide which faculty stay and which faculty goes. I would be the president of the system. Those are all faculty decisions at the campus level, not at whatever level I'm at.
So with your job as president, you would not overturn any campus decision about who should be tenured and who should not be?
I have not overturned any recommendation to me in terms of tenure or anything like that during my time as president. You need to build a campus leaders that are making those decisions so that I doubt that I am ever going to be in that position to do it, but to the extent I am, I have a firm respect and deference to the campus to make their own decisions in that regard.
Hi, Carrie Candrian. I'm on faculty of the Department of Medicine. I have a question about your 9-year track record. Try and move up a bit. Which was also during the time where the ACLU had given you a 7% rating on civil rights. And just to give the audience context, the other individuals that you had mentioned received 75%, 85%, 95% ratings. Can you tell me a story about your 9-year track record to make me and I think other people in this room believe you and trust you that you really are going to take us forward and not backwards? But I don't want facts. I want a story from those 9 years to convince me.
So, again, a lot of ratings right after 9/11. I'm not sure how ACLU comprised their rankings, but if you look at defending civil liberties, I had 2 bills in Congress, one that advanced the protections for education privacy. That was one of my bills that passed the House. Another bill I had was standing up for Chinese civil rights leaders. That was a case where I was shoulder to shoulder with Nancy Pelosi in her office advocating for that. That would be one story. The second thing is, if you look at the protections for LGBTQ plus communities in North Dakota, the past policies that I put forth protect those. Similarly, we've passed very strong protections for sexual violence while we were on campus at the University of North Dakota. Beyond that, I have reached out to different communities. At the school I led at George Washington had the first Spanish language degree that George Washington offered. We didn't have Martin Luther King Day celebrated on campus. When I got there, I brought Martin Luther King Day on campus. And if you look at making sure that we're reaching out and supporting women's leaders, my executive council at University of North Dakota is 8 people. 4 of them are women. 2 of them are women that I promoted to that position. 2 of them are women that I hired. So I believe that my track record on civil rights is very strong. It's very important to me, and I will be a strong leader on civil rights. If you have a specific civil rights issue that I need to address that's applicable to a university president, I'll be very happy to lean into that.
Hello, William Mundo. See you again, first-year medical student. So just 20 months into your tenure at the University of North Dakota, you applied to become the president at the University of Central Florida, and eventually they ended up not to hire you, citing your political career as an unnecessary level of risk. And now you're coming here to Colorado, and it's a 2-part question. One is, what ties do you have to Colorado? And if you don't have any, what makes you believe that you have what it takes to truly represent the needs of the Colorado community? And second to that, how can you convince the CU community that you're going to be invested here for the long run, despite the lack of commitment that you've given to the University of North Dakota?
2 questions. First of all, I could go through the enjoyable times that I've had in Colorado, and the times we visited here, the times we visited the mountains, the times that I've done business in Colorado, which have been several, but not to the extent of anybody that has lived here for an extended period of time. But I would just ask, how much connections did Janet Napolitano have to California before she went to be the president of the University of California? I have found that coming into a new state without any baggage as to how you're classified, what segment of the state you come from and represents, is a benefit to us. The second part of the question was, remind me again?
Yeah, how can you convince the entire CU community that you're going to be invested in us for a long time, despite the lack of commitment that you've shown to the University of North Dakota?
Well, let me just say that this week experience has been very enjoyable. I've really enjoyed the opportunity to get to know everybody and to get your feedback and get your questions and answer your questions. But I just as soon not do this for another decade or 2. So as I said before, and as I said to the regents, my commitment is that this is my capstone for my academic career. This is where I want to be for an extended period of time, because much of the goals that I have in terms of outreach, in terms of expanding research, in terms of expanding the impact of the University of Colorado won't be done in a year or two, and I want to be there for the long term to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Cindy O'Brien from SCAS School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences. My question is about gender equity. Recently, Denver University had to pay out a large settlement to female law professors due to salary inequity. The University of Colorado, or Colorado State University, has recently also done an investigation with an outside entity to look at gender inequity in salary. What would you do as a president, or would you support as a president, a thorough and system-wide, very transparent kind of investigation into gender inequity in pay and opportunity and promotion here at the University of Colorado?
It's already a topic that I've discussed with the administration. I think it's an issue that needs to be dealt with. We do need to make sure that if there is gender inequities, that we are addressing it. I have taken some actions in my career to try to address it, but as you say, it's a systematic thing and needs to be dealt with comprehensively. So know that it's an important issue to me, and know that I will look forward to getting a recommendation from the staff at the University of Colorado as the best way for us to address that issue.
Thank you for taking my question. I'm a 42-year alumnus of this campus, having finished my residency here in 1977 in obstetrics and gynecology. I'm proud of the fact that I learned all about all the aspects of obstetrics, gynecology, infertility, and family planning. Are you committed to continuing that broad education, particularly when it comes to providing family planning services that include contraceptive education and the provision of abortion services and its teaching and abortion complications?
Again, as I said, those types of those are decisions made by the faculty and by the departments and by the campus chancellors. I am supportive of whatever teaching methodologies and methods that are used. So I will have no interference in that decision.
We would like this included, and there are certain political aspects of the campus that may be discouraging.
I will support academic freedom, that anybody that wants to infringe upon the academic freedom of the institution to do it, I will be opposing their infringing on that academic freedom.
Hi there. So you've talked a little bit about how your views on members of the LGBTQ community have evolved. So my question has two facets to it. First, what specific actions did you take as a legislator, as a businessman, and as president of the University of North Dakota to make those communities more welcoming to members of the LGBT community? And then what specific measures will you take here as University of Colorado president to make this a welcoming and safe place for members of this community?
Again, we added our first dedicated staff to the community while I was at University of North Dakota. That staff created a whole series of programs to ally programs, mentoring programs, welcoming programs, reaching out to the community to get more allies and recognizing the allies that were done. And beyond that, we recognize that some of the other campuses, as we were the first to add staff to that area, and that devotion to the community weren't being done at other campuses. So we invited the other campuses in to talk about how we could do that. One further step we did is that we did the first ever survey campus-wide as to whether we were a welcoming and inclusive campus. When we got that survey back, it showed that on average we were with our peers, but then we used that survey to say, where can we do more? And one of the things we found is that our faculty were not necessarily teaching in a way that made everybody feel included. So what we did is we came up with 5 courses for faculty on how you can teach in a way that makes all the communities, everybody on campus, feel included, and have offered those classes for our faculty on multiple times. Those are just some of the things that I've done in a very concrete way in the last 2 years to make sure that we are inclusive at the University of North Dakota. When it comes to here, first of all, I think we already have a very inclusive environment. If we don't, I'm very supportive of working with the chancellors, working with the team to figure out what further programs we can do. This morning, I sat down with the One Colorado, I think it's called, community, and many other people in the broader community, and told them that one of the most important things that I need is I need an advisory committee around me that if they have new ideas as to how we can be supportive of each of the communities across the state, whether it be diversity as a part that relates to race or sexual orientation, I want to meet with them on a regular basis to see what are the concerns that are emerging, what are the new ideas as to how we can be supportive, and having that advisory committee that I meet with on a regular rhythm to make sure that we are at the forefront, that it is a competitive advantage for the University of Colorado, that we are more inclusive than other campuses, that we're attracting people to the University of Colorado because of how inclusive and supportive we are. That's my goal, and I'm looking for that advice from those outside community members to help me achieve that goal.
Earlier this week, you were asked about your track record not outwardly supporting DACA students at the University of North Dakota by not signing the Pomona letter. And today in your opening statement, you talked about your support of DACA, of DACA students. And forgive me, but this feels a little disingenuous. It seems like you're very good at trying to meet people at the political sway that they're at. And I guess I'm really hungry to know what you actually believe. If you will tell us what we want to hear, or what will you actually do to support DACA students? And do you actually believe that DACA students should be supported, or that undocumented students should be supported who aren't covered by DACA?
Let me give you again, good question. If you look at my time in Congress, let me give you 5 votes that reflect how I believe. We had a vote as to whether or not hospitals and medical professionals had to turn over the information on illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants in the country before they gave them health care services. I voted against the hospitals being able to turn over information on undocumented immigrants. We also had a vote on whether or not you could use matricula cards issued by the Mexican government as a form of identity in the United States. Many people were trying to ban the use of matricula cards. I voted to support matricula cards. We had a vote as to whether or not you would extend the time for undocumented immigrants to have more time to get their full citizenship or path to citizenship affirmed. I voted to extend the time. There was another time where we voted to whether or not to reduce whatever the penalties were in terms of magnitude and time for being in the country undocumented. I voted to reduce the penalties. And I had a constituent that I issued a specific bill for that I felt was not treated fairly in the immigration system to call for an adjustment of their immigration status. So I have always believed that our immigration system is broken, that it is unfairly causing pain to people that it's for no reason of their own. They're here, and I want to be strongly supportive of that, and that is not just a newfound conviction, that is a lifelong conviction.
Before we go to the next question, I just want to let the audience know we're just about ready to run out of time, and so we have time for 2 more questions. And so we'll come over here.
Thank you for being here today. Student mental health is an ever-growing concern and challenge on all of our campuses across the CU system. Can you talk about your understanding of student mental health and what sort of initiatives did you enact at UND?
We've talked about this is the 3rd time that I've talked about mental health services here during this week. It is vitally important. It's going to get even more important. It is something that we pay a lot of attention to at the University of North Dakota, where we have counseling services for our students, and we find that there's a growing need for that. We had the same conversation when I was down at Colorado Springs, and I was speaking with the team here at Anschutz. I said, is there anything we're doing? We're doing more work here at Anschutz about mental health that we, again, can help serve that need across the campuses, given that we have a medical campus of such renown. So know that it is an important issue. It's an increasingly important issue for students, and we need to make sure that we have good services. I would also say that every time we have a trauma event on campus, which regrettably happens more often than not, one of our first instincts is to reach out to students on campus to say, this is where you can come for the support that you may need during this period.
Counseling services are fantastic reactive sort of initiatives, but do you have any proactive initiatives that you've had there at the University of North Dakota?
I don't know that I can point to those specifically, but know that I am supportive of making sure that we work at this in a proactive way.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. My name is Jake. I'm a student here at the School of Medicine and the School of Public Health. Climate change is arguably the public health crisis and opportunity of my generation. When you were a member of Congress, your voting record on conservation issues and on environmental issues kind of fell short of commendable. So my question is, should we trust you at the helm as CU attempts to fulfill its climate action plan? And if so, what specific ideas do you have to transition us to renewable energy and establish us as a leader on climate? I'll add that steam-powered power plants are not renewable energy.
I believe you're asking about how can we be a leader at climate. I believe University of Colorado already is a leader on climate. Climate change is real. It is impacted by human activities, and we need to continue to be a leader here. If you look at my time in Congress, I have been supportive of alternative energies. I had co-authored a bill where I brought in Mark Udall to have a bill to put more money back into funding for alternative energies, and I could go through a long stream of other things and what I've done with wetlands and other things. But in the university, at University of North Dakota, one of the first actions I did is we had an old steam plant that was a coal-fired steam plant that we are now replacing with a far more efficient steam plant, and it's gas-fired, and it has the effect of taking 8,600 cars off the road. It has the effect from a carbon footprint reduction of planting all of Fargo and Grand Forks in forests. And when you combine the fact that we get our other electricity from Western Area Power, which is mostly hydro, my facilities people say that if we're not the greenest flagship when we get done with all this process, we are on our way to being. That replacement of the steam plant also includes replacement of energy more efficient light, more energy efficient features throughout the campus. So I have always been devoted to making sure we're addressing the needs of having the climate be a priority, and I will be strongly supportive of the research that we conduct on climate change here at the University of Colorado, as well as promoting investments in research that will make our economy ever more energy efficient. So I've had a lot of great questions here today. I very much appreciate everybody's interest in this decision, but know that I am committed to inclusivity. I am committed to making that a hallmark of this university, even more so than it already is today, and know that I look forward to working with you and the campuses to elevate even further this great university in the ranks of the best universities. Thank you for the time and attention.
I'd like to thank Mark for being here today, and most of all, I want to thank the audience for being here today as well.